Dear colleagues, let's go. You have item 7 with you? Okay. Okay. So please be seated, my dear colleagues. So please note that the Bureau, at its 6th meeting this morning, recommended the plenary that, considering that we have now concluded the examination of our agenda items 7A and 7B, as well as the debate on general item 7, and is indicated in the Bureau and the state of the plenary yesterday, in the interest of time, we will advance the examination of the following items to this morning. General item 8, related to the nomination process. This is only the general discussion on document 45.com-8, which will remain open until the 24th of September for the adoption of the draft decision. This does not concern the examination of the individual nominations filed, which will only start today in the afternoon, as scheduled. After the discussion on the general item 8, we will examine the subsequent sub-items in the following order. Item 8A on tentative list, item 8D on clarifications of boundaries areas by state parties, item 8E on review and approval of respective statement of OUV, to be followed by item A on the upstream process. Also in this afternoon, we will start the examination of item 8B on the nominations of sites on the World Heritage List at 3 p.m. For some of the nomination of cultural sites recommended for inscription, the presentation by ICMOS will be delivered through a pre-recorded video. Furthermore, I would like to recall that concerning item 8B, after we have completed the examination of the nominations, we will deal with the 22 minor boundary modifications. And after a bit of time, management for those minor boundary modifications that are recommended for approval, we will go straight to the related draft decisions without presentation. I also wish to inform you that we received a request from the State Party of France to move the timing for the examination of its nomination, Mount Pillet, to today in the end of the afternoon to allow all representatives to attend. Thank you. Japan, you may have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Since we are not a member of the Bureau, we were faced with a little bit unexpected situation. I'm talking about item 7, and we have made a proposal. We explained the proposal yesterday, and those are the things that we are talking about. Originally, this particular item was scheduled a lot earlier at that time. And then we collectively made a decision to postpone this item until Saturday morning. And at that time, we were told that we have to start item 8 discussions from the afternoon. So it would be possible if we have time before the end of the morning of Saturday. That was what I heard earlier. And then yesterday we started our discussions. I explained the DR. And then again, I'm told that this will be postponed to the 24th. I don't think this is fair. We have been talking about this item for quite some time, and we're not allowed to discuss the DR at this stage in time. I don't think it's fair. Now, I want to know if there is any pressing reason why we cannot do it now. Because originally, item 8 was scheduled from this afternoon. This morning, we were told repeatedly that if there's time, we can discuss item 7. That is our proposal. So I strongly propose that we should have a discussion on this item 7, that only the DR is left, and that's the only thing. On top of that, if I may, yesterday at about 5:20 or 5:25, or around 5:30, I thought we are going to have discussions on the DR, and then all of a sudden the meeting was closed. So I don't understand why we cannot discuss it now. In our eyes, this is not fair. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. So we have indicated this twice or 3 times, I believe, before, and there was a consensus and no objections on the proposed to open the discussion on item 7, but examine the draft decision on the 24th. But it's the call of the committee members. Yes, Japan?
Well, ultimate adoption can take place on 24, but the discussions on the DR should take place. Because, I think before there was a discussion about this, and Ambassador Oman was saying that we should have discussions on this issue after 7A and 7B, when we still have a fresh memory about the discussions of the conservation files. So ultimate adoption can take place on the 24th, but discussions about DR should take place here at this moment in time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. India?
Excellency, very good morning to you. This is exactly the point we were making in the Bureau this morning. Exactly the point. When an agenda item of the provisional agenda is adopted, at the beginning of any meeting, the chair of that meeting has a hammer, and the chair hits that hammer. That hammer is sacred. Once the chair rules, so be it. It is our position that officers from India come on a sanctioned order based on agenda items. Yesterday morning, we were informed certain agenda items were being shuffled. Today morning, again, we are informed certain agenda items are being shuffled. Excellency, it is my humble request we should put a stop to this shuffling. And with that, I'm in complete agreement with the Ambassador of Japan. Once we follow an agenda, it should be followed unless, as I said in the Bureau also, unless there is an emergency. And people in the Bureau, they said they did not understand what I said. Well, now you understand in front of the whole committee. The whole committee is here. The Ambassador of Japan has raised very important point, and India is in complete agreement with the Ambassador of Japan. Once an agenda, the provisional agenda has been accepted and the chair has hit the hammer, as much as possible, unless there is an extreme emergency, Excellency, I request you to use your authority. You have the authority as a chair, and this is leadership. You say no more changes, and for which we will appreciate you, Excellency. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. So we have spoke about it twice or 3 times, and we explained it, and also the Secretariat explained it, and also we informed the Bureau about it. So there was no change on this matter. We agreed, and there were no objections to open the discussion of item 7 and move to the examination of the draft decision on the 24th. Russian Federation?
Спасибо большое, господин председатель. Доброе утро, уважаемые делегаты. Мы бы хотели поддержать господина председателя в только что сказанном и, как логично, поддержать слова о том, что все должно идти так, как было договорено и предусмотрено ранее. Была распространена предварительная повестка дня. Дебаты по пункту повестки дня номер 7 открыты, мы можем дебатировать и продолжать дискуссию. Обсуждение решения намечено на 24 число. Мы бы хотели попросить придерживаться ранее согласованного графика с учетом того, что это нормальная практика комитета. Кроме того, как нас информировал секретариат, определенные вопросы, связанные с сохранением, сохранностью объектов, обсуждаются в ходе обсуждения пункта повестки дня о номинационном процессе. У нас также есть эксперты, которые планировали принять участие в обсуждении решения, которые еще, к сожалению, не приехали сюда, в Эр-Рияд. Поэтому мы бы просили придерживаться ранее согласованного графика и перейти к рассмотрению решения 24 числа. Спасибо.
Thank you. Greece?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to all dear colleagues. Our delegation would also like to support the proposal of the distinguished Ambassador of Japan. We deem fair that we complete only the discussion, but that we complete the discussion we started yesterday. As you mentioned, it seems that we are ahead of our schedule and there is enough time in the morning. So we believe it's very fair that we continue with the discussion with member states to express their opinion on this very important item. And then at a later stage, on the 24th of September, we examine the draft decision. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Roman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to concur with the Ambassador of Japan and India and others. I think we need to start the discussion and then decision to be discussed at the end on the 24th. That's what we have agreed, and I cannot understand why we are postponing this. Thank you.
It seems like we have a misunderstanding here. We opened the discussion yesterday, and we opened the discussion and the floor to the delegate of Japan, and then no one took the floor, so that we left the session earlier yesterday. So the session was open for debate and for discussion, and we agreed on the examination of the draft decision on the 24th. So we had no interventions yesterday or comments. So I think like we have a misunderstanding about what are we doing now, and we explained it a couple times, and we had no objections on this matter. So the discussion on item 7 took place yesterday after we completed the examination of item 7A and 7B. And then we opened the general discussion on item 7. You may have the floor, Japan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry. With all due respect, what happened yesterday, because, at the outset, I said that, I can, of course, in response to the question, I did say that we are happy to explain our DR, but it can come later. And then you gave me the floor, so I explained. That was followed by other more general interventions. Now, at that time, there was a kind of understanding that general statements should take place at this moment in time and come to the DR at a later stage. And what my understanding is, what you're asking for was whether there was any general statements to make on this item, so nobody wanted to take the floor after that. We did not know. We thought after the general debate, because we had around 30 minutes before the closure of the date, we thought that there will be a discussion on the DR immediately after that. Even if we didn't say that, the general understanding was this floor was open for general debate. And then there was no general remarks. So I thought there was going to be a discussion on the DR. And then all of a sudden we were told, okay, this is the end of the meeting today, leaving 30 minutes. And then I remember you said we are going to resume the discussions tomorrow. So I thought the discussions on DR will take place tomorrow. That was the general understanding. All of a sudden, this morning in the Bureau, it seems that this suggestion was there, but we're not a member of the Bureau. We're not allowed to speak. Is this fair? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Your Excellency. So state members and observers, they can attend the Bureau as well, and they can participate, and they can take place. So it's not only exclusive for the Bureau members. Nigeria?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know whether this is correct, but point of correction, I recall Nigeria took the floor because you made statement that nobody took the floor. Nigeria took the floor. And Nigeria was the last to speak, and we agree that we continue with the discussion this morning. Thank you very much.
I'd like to pass the floor to the ADG.
Si vous me permettez, comme ça, on peut continuer le travail. Il y a une petite confusion. Hier, effectivement, le président a donné la parole pour un débat. Le Japon a parlé, l'Inde a parlé, Oman a parlé, le Nigeria a parlé, je m'en rappelle de mémoire. Il vous a demandé s'il y avait encore des prises de parole. Personne du comité n'a levé sa plaque. Donc on a compris que vous ne vouliez plus avoir de dialogue. Et ce que nous avions compris, apparemment, c'est que la décision, le DR, vous vouliez le voir le 24. C'est bien ça qu'on avait tous compris, à moins qu'on ait compris des choses différentes. Là, ce que l'ambassadeur du Japon propose, c'est qu'on voit la DR. Mais c'est autre chose. Si vous voulez faire ça, vous êtes aujourd'hui autorisé de faire ce que vous voulez. Donc c'est à vous de nous dire ce que veulent la majorité. Soit on revient à analyser la DR, soit on le voit le 24. C'est comme vous voulez. Mais ne dites pas qu'il y a eu l'espace pour le débat hier. Et on a dû suspendre, le président a suspendu 25 minutes avant la fin de l'heure signalée, parce que personne ne voulait prendre la parole. Donc c'est à vous aujourd'hui de nous dire ce que vous voulez. Nous, on est dans vos mains. Mais aucune décision n'a été changée. On a suivi ce que vous nous avez demandé. Voilà.
Thank you. Japan?
Sorry, to come back. No, I have no disagreement with what Mr. ADG said. Having said that, I want to have a clarification, because if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Chair, did you say that non-members of the Bureau can participate and say something? I thought this was not allowed. That's why nobody from our delegation said anything. Is it allowed? That's a point of clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I would like to pass the floor to the rapporteur for some clarifications. I'll give the floor to the legal advisor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My apologies. I did not understand that the question was addressed to me. Mr. Chair, contrary to other bodies, one of the particularities of this committee is that the sessions of the Bureau are, the meetings of the Bureau are open to the other members of the committee in particular, but also to to the advisory bodies, among others. In that context, I do confirm for future reference that members of the committee are able to attend the Bureau sessions and that they are able to take the floor. As a matter of fact, in the past few days, we had several instances in which members of the committee, this morning the distinguished ambassador from India refers to the fact that he did take the floor in this morning's meeting. in prior meetings during this session, a state party, if I remember correctly, Palestine, for example, took the floor. The process is the same one as in the committee, that is that first the members of the Bureau speak and then observers are able to do so. This is just a clarification for future reference. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Greece?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Although we said before that we are ahead of our schedule, I'm afraid we are losing now some valuable time. And from what we heard from the esteemed colleagues, it's clear to us that there is no consensus on how to proceed. And in fact, there has been a misunderstanding concerning some member states yesterday, including Greece. We wanted to make a general statement. So I'll propose that we can reschedule perhaps our program this morning and have only a 15-30 minutes discussion on a general debate, and then proceed on the 24th with the examination of the DR. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Excellency. India?
Thank you, Excellency. I would like to thank the legal advisor. As usual, he has mentioned, he's made comments for future reference, which is very helpful. And I confirm that in the Bureau today, the State Party of India did sit, but we sat in a place where it was earmarked for observers. And because we are also not a Bureau member, when we sat as observers, we do not have a right to speak unless we take permission from the chair. And the chair mentioned that first the Bureau members would speak, and then the chair ruled that since we had requested the floor, the chair was gracious enough to give us the floor. And we mentioned our reservations regarding the shuffling of the agenda items, and we still hold that the agenda items are sacrosanct once the hammer of the chair hits, and they should not be shuffled unless there is an emergency. This is our position. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I'd like to ask the delegation of Japan, Your Excellency, so you want to open the floor for discussion or proceed with the examination of the draft decision?
No, my proposal is to discuss a draft decision. And I understand the ADG, Mr. Otone, mentioned that the committee members can decide. That is my understanding. Sorry, am I responding to your question correctly?
Thank you. Russian Federation.
Спасибо большое, господин председатель. Хотела бы поддержать Грецию, которая предложила, по-моему, компромиссное решение. Пункт повестки дня открыт. Мы можем возобновить дискуссию. Ничто не препятствует этому вопросу. И если есть делегаты, которые, например, из Нигерии или из других стран не успели высказаться по каким-то причинам, не доехали эксперты, у нас сейчас есть время, чтобы продолжить эту дискуссию и обсуждать общие вопросы сохранности объектов. Не видим препятствия. До 24 числа мы можем это делать спокойно в соответствии с правилами процедуры. Вместе с тем предлагаем сохранить имеющуюся в комитете сложившуюся практику о рассмотрении решения по этому пункту после окончания рассмотрения вопросов номинаций, потому что в ходе этих дискуссий появляются новые инсайты, новые идеи, которые могут быть также отражены в тексте этого решения. Поэтому предлагаю, если есть желающие продолжить дискуссию и вернуться к рассмотрению текста решения 24 числа. Спасибо большое, господин председатель. Шукран аль-Раис.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now since we have the proposal from Greece that we resume the discussion on general item 7, and also maybe we can also follow it by the proposal of Japan, is to discuss the proposed draft decision, and then maybe we formally adopt the draft decision on the 24th, if that is okay with everyone. Point of order, Russia.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Наверное, может быть, не очень правильно перевели мое выступление. Мы можем обсуждать все, что угодно, любые вопросы, относящиеся по смыслу, по сути, к пункту повестки дня, связанному с состоянием сохранности объектов. Далее, после того, как мы обсудим эти вопросы, мы переходим к рассмотрению текста решения, которое мы будем рассматривать 24 числа со всеми поправками, предложенными в этот проект решения. Нам ничего не мешает обсудить сейчас смысл предлагаемых уважаемым японским послом нововведений или улучшений системы реактивного мониторинга объектов. Мы готовы к этим дискуссиям, мы в целом поддерживаем предложение японской делегации. Мы просто еще раз хотели бы...
Нет, перевели неправильно, что ты support what Japan saying. Это не так.
Простите, мне тут говорят, что перевод не очень правильный. Я еще раз повторю. Есть предложение японской делегации по улучшению системы реактивного мониторинга, по усилению взаимодействия между странами-членами, консультативными органами и секретариатом, Центром всемирного наследия. Мы поддерживаем идеи и предложения по улучшению этого диалога, которые высказывает японская делегация. Но мы хотели бы обратить внимание, что текст решения должен обсуждаться после закрытия пункта повестки дня «Номинационный процесс». Еще раз прошу учесть уважаемых делегатов.
Скажи, что правки могут носиться до 23-го.
Да, подождите. Уважаемые делегаты, у нас приезжают эксперты, которые хотели бы также предложить свои поправки в решение. Поэтому мы просили бы перейти к этому проекту 24 числа, поскольку в соответствии с предварительной повесткой дня обсуждение текста этого решения было намечено на 24 число субботу. Это значит, что до 23 числа любые делегации членов комитета могут предлагать поправки в предложенное решение. Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much, Japan.
Thank you very much. No, I think we have a middle ground here. The point here is we want to discuss the DR because we have already, heard a lot of general statements. We have to discuss the DR And this deal has considerable support. I have actually spoken to many delegations, and has considerable support. But as I said, we are very open to any amendments. Now, what I would suggest is we should have discussions on the deals now, but we don't have to close it. And if the Russian delegation wants to come up with the amendment at a later stage, that's fine. We have no substantive disagreement with the Russian delegation. The point here, we have time. We have time. Why don't we discuss the DR now? But as the Russian delegation suggested, we don't have to have a complete close on the discussions. But this discussion, I think, is very important because, this is about the dialogue. This is essentially about the dialogue among the concerned parties, and this is very pertinent to the issues that we have discussed in relation to the conservation files earlier, yesterday, and the day before yesterday. So it's worth having discussions and worth hearing views from the delegations. But as the Russian delegation suggested, we are still open to amendments up until 24th. Thank you.
Thank you, Russian Federation.
Спасибо большое, господин председатель. Я хочу еще раз сказать, чтобы было, мне кажется, уже понимание у нас появляется в комитете. Делегации хотят обсудить сейчас пункт 7 общий, потому что есть время. Но если мы перейдем к рассмотрению решения, мы это время потеряем. Почему? Потому что даже если мы рассмотрим текстуально поправки, предложенные Японией, мы не сможем их принять. Председатель не сможет ударить молоточком, потому что решение остается открытым до 24 числа. И таким образом, до 23-го у уважаемых членов комитета есть возможность внести правки. И тогда, получается, мы 24-го рассматриваем еще раз тот же самый текст решения. Таким образом, мы теряем время, мы рассматриваем одно и то же решение 2 раза. Я понимаю желание уважаемого посла Японии обсудить его предложение, но его предложение мы уже обсудили. Делегация Японии имела возможность представить свои правки. Многие делегации, включая мою, их в целом поддержали. Поддержали идею, ту, которая закладывается в эти правки. Правильно? Но состояние сохранности, вопросы, относящиеся к состоянию сохранности, возникают и обсуждаются при обсуждении номинаций. Таким образом, повторяющиеся одни и те же какие-то горизонтальные вопросы могут быть отражены в решении по пункту 7 24 числа. По состоянию на сегодня мы не знаем, будут ли эти вопросы или нет, появятся ли повторяющиеся какие-то просьбы или нет, но мы узнаем это к 23-му. Поэтому мы поддержали предложение Греции. Если есть страны, которые хотят участвовать в дебатах сейчас, высказать какие-то свои мнения по поводу общей системы мониторинга, в том числе касательно японских правок по улучшению этой системы, это, пожалуйста, у нас есть время. Но мы не можем идти и рассматривать текстуально решение, потому что мы ждем своих экспертов, которые хотят в том числе внести свой позитивный вклад, такой же позитивный вклад, как его внесла Япония. Спасибо.
Japan, you may have the floor.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm really sorry to come back again. Yes, my proposal, as I said, is to discuss the decision, but we don't have to close it now. The reason I have been chairing meetings a number of times before. When you start discussing the deal, there will be a lot of comments. And those comments, oftentimes, are supporting the contents of the deal. But I think this is an important issue. I think everybody has to speak. So in that case, it will take considerable time. So if we have discussions on the DL now, even if we cannot close it now, if we have a discussion on the DL now, I think people understand the positions of each other, and we don't have to repeat it again on 24th. You know, I don't think this item is too controversial, but nevertheless, because of the importance of this item, I think there will be a number of interventions. So why don't we do it when we have time? I'm not saying that you should hammer it to close the discussions, but people should be given the floor, you know, and talk about what they think about those amendments. This process takes quite a long time, and that is why we suggest we do it right now. But I understand that Russian expert is coming at a later date, so they may want to propose further amendments, but that's fine. It may not take such a long time if the discussion is only about the specific amendment. But, you know, the discussions on those items, I'm sure will take certain amount of time. Why don't we make the best use of time? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. So, Russia, you have anything to add?
Спасибо большое, господин председатель. Я все-таки не понимаю, в чем состоит логика уважаемого посла Японии. Даже если комитет перейдет к рассмотрению, хотя это будет идти вразрез с тем, что было решено ранее, и с тем решением, с тем графиком, который был распространен заранее, и по которому делегации выстраивали свой график приезда в Эр-Рияд, все равно даже те правки, которые мы обсудим японские, они не могут быть даже предварительно закрыты, потому что 24 числа формально у всех есть право внести в них еще поправки. Какой смысл ходить два раза по одному и тому же кругу? У нас есть эксперты, которые еще не приехали. Они хотят внести свой позитивный вклад, так же, как эксперты любой другой делегации члена комитета. Мне кажется, что в целом и в общем японские правки, так сказать, находят позитивный отклик, но текстуально мы не можем сейчас их драфтить. Тем более, что уважаемый господин посол Японии по состоянию на сегодня не может предсказать, как пойдут дебаты по номинациям, не может знать, какие вопросы будут подняты другими делегациями. Соответственно, он не может знать, как и что захотят добавить другие делегации. Тогда в чем смысл терять время сегодня? Я вот этого никак не могу понять. Мы сейчас все обсуждаем, как нам не потерять время, но мы его уже потеряли, обсуждая, как не потерять время. Вот в чем, так сказать, состоит неприятность. Поэтому мы могли бы сейчас перейти по графику, как это было обсуждено на бюро и поддержано всеми электоральными группами, и потом, может быть, мы пришли бы к 24-му раньше 24-го и успели бы продебатировать все правки, как хотели. Поэтому, уважаемый господин председатель, я вас очень прошу придерживаться изначально того графика, как было договорено. И если уважаемые делегации хотят высказаться в общем по поводу сути японских правок, мы готовы тоже принять участие в этой дискуссии, но мы считаем, что текст на экране должен появиться 24 числа, как это и было предусмотрено ранее. Спасибо.
Thank you very much. Greece?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm afraid that time is evaporating since I submitted our proposal to give this general debate at least half an hour. Half an hour has elapsed, and I don't feel that the majority of member states are against having a half an hour discussion on this item. Some of them would like to make a general presentation or general remarks on it. Some of them would be also ready to go more in depth, fully understanding the arguments of the Russian delegation, that their experts are not present, but some other member states have their experts here, so we could start the discussion, put a time limit to it for today, and then continue and conclude it on the 24th. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you, Your
Chair.
Excellency. Japan?
Thank you very much. Now, let me make a last try. If the Russian delegation does not oppose for me to propose that DR is there to explain what it is and want to hear views from other delegations, that's fine. If they oppose the showing of the DR altogether, I really don't understand why this is the biggest issue of difference between Russia and Japan in this committee, but why can't we have discussions on the DR? That's something I don't understand. By the way, this decision has nothing to do with the inscription. This is all about conservation. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. So it seems like we have a consensus, and the majority would like to resume opening the discussion on the general item 7, and if they have a statement, and if they have anything to do, also in response to the proposal of Japan, since you have received it, and then we can allocate. Yeah, we can allocate about half an hour about it, and then we continue our work. So this is the thing, is like it was open from yesterday, and I don't know why it was not understood. But South Africa, you may have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Yes, we wanted to support the proposal by Russia, which is exactly our understanding in terms of what has been discussed and confirmed in terms of the order that we are going to follow. We are open to a general debate, not necessarily that the decision be opened. Our understanding is that the debate will only be opened on the decision on the 24th. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I hope now we are like at the same page. So we will reopen the discussion for about half an hour and the general debate, and then we'll resume to our work. So it seems that we are good. So now, like, you requested to resume the discussion, and no one would like to intervene? Greece?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our delegation welcomes the amendments submitted by Japan. We firmly believe that their adoption will be substantial to improve communication and exchange of information between the state parties and the advisory bodies in the context of the reactive monitoring process. This proposed practice will serve the purpose of more transparency, but also for more efficiency, since dialogue and consultations in all stages of the procedure would be beneficial to converging the views and avoiding of misunderstandings. We would also like to address a question to Japan for more clarifications regarding the implementation of the content of the recommendation provided in para 15. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Japan, you may have the floor.
Thank you very much. And I know in agreement with your guidance, and also in agreement probably with the points made by the Russian delegation, can we just have a look at paragraph 12? Because this is the core of the issue. And I want to make general discussions on the particular paragraph. And then I would like to hear from other delegations on the reactions to this particular paragraph. And also, because Greece referred to paragraph 15, I can explain why we have it there. So can we just have a look at paragraph 12? I don't think that is a problem for the Russian delegation.
Thank you very much. So we will just show it just to project and illustrate your point. So which paragraph you want to refer to, Your Excellency?
Paragraph 12. Thank you.
So you have the floor now.
Thank you very much. Now, in Paris, when we had discussions about conservation reports, many delegations were actually talking about the lack of communications. I'm sure that evaluation bodies as well as the Secretariat were very busy, but at the same time, some of those conservation reports can have a big impact on the domestic situation in the state parties concerned. Now, with that in mind, our proposal essentially have three different things, but our first proposal is more general. On the conservation report, before, this part is very important, before the publication of the report, there should be, the report, content of the report have to be disclosed to the member state concerned, and if there is a need, the consultations should take place. This is the first paragraph. The second paragraph is a little bit different. Now, the second paragraph is if the report of the evaluation bodies proposes to put the particular property in the list of World Heritage in danger, then they have to disclose their opinion before the publication of the report, and then there is a need for consultations. And in case their views, the views of the advisory bodies and the state parties do not converge, the point of view of the state party concerned should be contained as an attachment, as an annex to this document. That is paragraph B. And subparagraph C, this applies not to the evaluation bodies but to the Secretariat. When the Secretariat paper proposes to put the property in the list of world property in danger, World Heritage in danger, in that case, the center has to disclose it to the member state concerned prior to the publication, prior to the distribution of the document. And if the views, the state members' views are different, in that case, those have to be shown in the annex. That is the most important thing. Paragraph 15, which was asked by Greece, yes, it is true that financial implications there. We have had discussion with the center on this particular point. One of the caveats shown by the center was that they need some budget for this. So, that means you can't do it for everything. So we have to take that point into consideration. That's why paragraph 15 is there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. So I may pass the floor to the Secretariat to reflect on some of your comments.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Alors, je voudrais remercier Monsieur l'ambassadeur du Japon pour cette explication, ces clarifications. Je dois dire que nous avons effectivement commencé ce dialogue avant le comité tout au long de cette année. Et cette question a été au centre des discussions lors des différentes rencontres que nous avons eues avec différents membres du comité. Mais je voudrais, si vous permettez, Monsieur le Président, juste rappeler déjà la pratique que nous avons concernant certaines questions qui sont évoquées dans le paragraphe 12 et qui concernent à la fois les missions de suivi réactif que le comité demande, mais aussi les missions conseil qui sont demandées par les États parties. Alors la pratique a toujours été, depuis quelque temps, que la version initiale consolidée des rapports de mission qui sont effectués par le Centre du patrimoine mondial et les organisations consultatives soit d'abord partagée avec l'État partie concerné pour recueillir ses erreurs factuelles, pour recueillir son avis, de manière à ce que ce ne soit pas une surprise de découvrir le rapport de mission mis en ligne. Parce que vous avez demandé souvent que les rapports de mission soient mis en ligne et avec, bien sûr, l'accord de l'État partie. C'était une pratique. Et vous vous souviendrez que vous recevez cette transmission de rapport et nous vous proposons un temps de 15 jours pour nous faire un retour sur le rapport que nous rediscutons et que nous finalisons. Je crois que l'idée de cet amendement est effectivement d'aller dans ce sens et de le systématiser. Ce qui est qui est important, qui est rajouté, c'est dans le cas où il y a une proposition d'inscription sur la liste en péril, c'est-à-dire qu'en fait, ce n'est pas une proposition d'inscription sur la liste en péril, mais c'est un avis de la mission de dire que le bien visité remplit les conditions qui sont inscrites au paragraphe 179 des orientations. Et ce que l'ambassadeur ce que le Japon, dans son amendement, demande, c'est qu'un dialogue soit entamé à ce moment-là, pour que ce soit possible. Alors, ce qu'il faut comprendre, c'est que ce dialogue, effectivement, nous sommes favorables à le mener. Et le paragraphe 15 est un paragraphe, effectivement, qui montre qu'il y a du temps et des ressources nécessaires qui seront certainement, qui auront un impact sur comment ce dialogue peut être conduit à ce moment-là. Pas simplement pour les organisations consultatives, mais aussi pour le Centre du patrimoine mondial, à ce moment-là. Donc, ce dialogue, nous l'avons commencé, vous souhaitez le faire, mais il a des implications et je voudrais simplement ici le relever. Alors, Monsieur le Président, vous voudriez peut-être aussi, parce que c'est important, donner la parole aux organisations consultatives également pour leur avis. Mais je voudrais conclure en rassurant les membres du comité que c'est un peu dans cet esprit d'améliorer la transparence, d'améliorer les échanges et le dialogue avec les États membres du comité et les États parties de la Convention en général, que nous avons commencé à améliorer cette manière de procéder à la finalisation des rapports d'émission et aux échanges. Ces échanges ont lieu déjà pendant la mission. Ils n'ont pas lieu après, ils ont lieu pendant la mission avec toutes les rencontres que nous faisons, avec les thèmes de référence qui sont préparés ensemble avec les États parties concernés et les décisions du comité. Et ils ont lieu parce que vous recevez le rapport et donc vous nous fournissez vos commentaires justement à ce titre-là. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. I may pass the floor to the advisory bodies if they have any reflections on this.
Shukran, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for these discussions. So IUCN seconds the points that have been made by the Secretariat. So as you know, the advisory bodies have had many discussions around continuing dialogue. We are available and open and support open dialogue with states parties and continue to encourage this. And as the points have just been made by the Director of the World Heritage Centre around the importance of doing so, and that this is part of the reactive monitoring process and is also undertaken with the states parties in question during the mission, during the missions that are undertaken with our mission experts, and also in the process of afterwards. Perhaps just one point to raise, that one of the most important points as well is, of course, the finalization of documents, including mission reports, in preparation for the upcoming committee session and the state of conservation reporting is, of course, to ensure a timely finalization of all documents. So we would, as we have said, we support open dialogue and exchange, but that this really, an important point on this is to ensure that this is able to take place within an appropriate time frame that does ensure the finalization of documents in time for the preparation for the committee session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ekamas?
Thank you very much, Chair. Sorry. I agree with my colleague, well, Ekamas agrees with the colleague from IUCN. As the Director of the Centre mentioned, the amended text resonates in part with current practice. It is hoped that the proposed amendments will provide the mechanisms and the means for further dialogue through the reactive monitoring process, which may be beneficial to the information provided to the committee for its deliberations. Thank you very much.
Shukran jazilan. Sultanate Oman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry for my voice. I don't see any contradiction between what is presented here and what is presented by the World Heritage Center and the advisory body. It is complementing each other. And therefore, I think this is more clear, more precise. The problem only about the dialogue before taking a decision, either to put a site in World Heritage Indigenous list or accepting it. This is the problem because it is becoming too late. For example, for this committee, before we came, only 2 or 3 days, we got the decision to understand the decision of the advisory body. And therefore, dialoguing might give more time. And therefore, the member state will know what is going on about their files. So I think it is complementing each other. I don't see any contradiction. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Also, we'll get back to the Secretariat.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je pense que je voulais juste rajouter quelque chose qui est très important. C'est-à-dire que pour que tout cela puisse être possible de manière encore plus efficace, il faut prendre en compte une nécessaire planification des missions. Mais je voudrais vous assurer ici que la plupart des missions qui sont organisées, quand elles sont organisées dans les temps, avec la disponibilité bien sûr de l'État partie, les rapports de mission sont prêts. Alors ce qui est important, ce n'est pas simplement les rapports de mission, c'est la communication des documents de travail au comité du patrimoine mondial. Et la règle est ici de toute façon très claire. Vous commencez à les demander 6 semaines avant le début de la réunion. Donc, si cette question est beaucoup plus systématisée, ça voudra dire que les missions qui ne peuvent pas se faire ou qui sont prévues à la dernière minute pourront ne pas avoir lieu parce que justement le temps du dialogue n'aura pas été suffisant, peut-être estimé par vous. C'est pour ça que peut-être sur ces questions, puisque vous devez quand même garder les questions qui peuvent arriver aussi en dernière minute, c'est tout à fait normal que ça arrive. Donc si c'est possible d'avoir une référence sur lorsque cela est possible et dans les limites des dates butoirs du travail du comité du patrimoine mondial selon les orientations, ça pourrait nous permettre de garder cette petite flexibilité qui vous permet, et à vous, de vous organiser pour recevoir des missions, parce que des fois, il y a des missions qui ont été repoussées à la demande des États parties parce que les conditions n'étaient pas réunies, parce que les institutions n'étaient pas disponibles ou vos experts n'étaient pas disponibles. Donc, ce qui serait bien, c'est de garder toujours cette possibilité de négociation et de préparation de la mission dans l'amendement proposé par le Japon. Voilà. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Sultanate Oman.
Thank you very much. I don't want to take the floor again, but we have to remind ourselves, last meeting committee, we added 1 year. When we added that 1 year, I think it will give a spectrum of time between the member state and the advisory body and the World Heritage Center. I think this 1 year is going to spare more time for discussion. We have to remember this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Japan, you may have the floor.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify our intentions. Yes, we understand there might be some procedural challenge or perhaps time challenges. In our proposal, we are saying that the consultations take place, but those consultations can be done online in the first place. And we also, we can understand the situation where, the views of all the state parties concerned and the evaluation bodies cannot converge. In that case, maybe the report has 1 or 2 page annex saying, explaining the points about the view of the state party concerned. So we have, flexibility there. So I don't think this is going to take a gigantic time. And I also agree that this is an attempt to institutionalize what's going on. Perhaps the only difference is the viewpoints of the member states have to be shown as an annex. That is a little bit new, only in the case of endangered listing. But that is a little bit new. But otherwise, essentially, this is institutionalization of what is going on. So, you can make use of modern technology to save time for this exercise. Thank you.
ADG, you have anything to add to this?
Yes, if you allow me, voy a hablar en español, así que pónganse los audífonos. Quería hacer 2 comentarios, porque este tema lo venimos trabajando hace bastantes meses ya. 2 temas. Sé que no les gusta hablar de las otras convenciones, pero creo que los que han ratificado y son parte de la Convención del Patrimonio Inmaterial han vivido en los últimos 4 años la experiencia del diálogo como un factor determinante en las inscripciones de sus elementos, evitando problemas factuales de interpretación con respecto a los evaluadores y los estados parte. Y eso ha dado resultados extraordinarios en el avance de las inscripciones. Acá estamos hablando de misiones, y esta es una particularidad muy grande del patrimonio mundial, como ustedes saben, y con respecto al diálogo, en la práctica se hace, y ustedes lo saben, se intercambia con los Estados miembros, incluso con los informes de las misiones, tal como está puesto. Por lo tanto, nos parece que este es un gran aporte para institucionalizar algo que efectivamente ya hacemos. Con respecto a los sitios de patrimonio, o los que se ponen o se proponen para poner en la lista del patrimonio en peligro, nos parece que la propuesta también es un avance para el trabajo del secretariado. Sin duda es un poco más de trabajo para los advisory body y también para el secretariado, pero sin duda ayuda a que cuando llegue este debate acá al seno del Comité del Patrimonio, tengan todas las informaciones necesarias para tomar una decisión que sea lo más útil para la conservación del sitio. Lo que sí es importante, y usted lo dijo, que tendría que ser un documento anexo o algo, porque lo que no puede ser es que sea el Estado parte que haga la redacción de su informe de la misión. Eso estamos de acuerdo, si no, mejor no contar con advisory body. Por lo tanto, esa es la línea que hay que mantener para la integridad de la convención, y creo que eso no está en discusión. Por lo tanto, el secretario también ve con muy buenos ojos las propuestas hechas por el embajador de Japón. Eso, muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Egypt, you may have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Allow me first to welcome the proposal made by the distinguished ambassador of Japan. We believe it will increase the dialogue between the member states and the advisory bodies, and will also enhance the ongoing efforts by the World Heritage Center and advisory bodies to increase the transparency and efficiency within the framework of the reactive monitoring process. We acknowledged, of course, the efforts undertaken by the Secretariat and World Heritage Center, but we also noted a delay in transmitting mission report in some cases. I would like to ask the average time frame to present them. We also need to discuss the financial repercussions. I understand that paragraph 15 is not in front of me right now, but I think it would be useful as well to discuss them. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Dear Director, you may have the floor to reflect on this matter. Egypt, the mic.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais juste remercier le distingué l'ambassadeur de l'Égypte pour sa question. Alors, dans la pratique, vous savez que les missions de suivi réactif ou des missions de conseil, comme l'a dit le sous-directeur général, sont des missions d'experts. Alors, ces missions d'experts s'appuient sur des termes de référence que nous avons convenus et sur les documents de travail que vous mettez à notre disposition, ce qui nous permet de préparer efficacement la mission et d'avoir une programmation de la mission dans un temps très court, puisqu'il faut rationaliser les questions financières également pour que les missions ne restent pas longtemps sur le terrain. Et ensuite, nous commençons à rédiger le rapport et s'il nous manque des informations, nous échangeons avec vos points focaux. Donc nous nous donnons d'habitude, et de façon très claire, un délai de 6 à 8 semaines pour préparer le rapport, ce qui est un délai pour une préparation d'un rapport assez professionnel avec des recommandations très claires, raisonnables, ce qui permet effectivement de vous le renvoyer et vous avez 15 jours pour réagir et nous publions le rapport. Évidemment, il est arrivé des situations particulières où un rapport de mission n'a pas pu être rendu parce que malheureusement ça peut être le cas, un expert peut avoir eu un Covid long, ce qui peut rendre les choses très compliquées pour rédiger le rapport, etc. Mais ça c'est des cas particuliers. Donc nous avons convenu avec les organisations consultatives dans nos méthodes de travail ce temps. Mais cela nécessite aussi que du côté des États qui accueillent les missions, que l'organisation soit faite, que la documentation soit parfaite, que les évaluations d'impact environnementaux qui sont demandées soient mises à disposition, que tous les documents techniques soient là. Et je voudrais encore revenir sur une question fondamentale, c'est que tout ce qui peut faciliter ce dialogue en amont, pas simplement après le rapport, est bien sûr la chose la plus importante pour faciliter un accord. Et comme l'a dit le sous-directeur général, bien sûr, c'est important d'avoir l'avis de l'État partie. Et si il est important de respecter l'avis technique d'expertise des organisations consultatives et du secrétariat, et à ce moment-là, un avis de l'État partie sur les recommandations ou sur la mission est bien sûr peut-être partagé et mis aussi à la disposition des membres du comité lorsque le rapport de mission est mis à disposition une fois qu'il a été finalisé par les deux parties. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Thailand, you may have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think our delegation concurs that the dialogue between the the special advisory bodies and the state party is extremely important in this endeavor to conserve and preservation of the heritage site. So we would like to concur with proposal by Japan to have the draft mission report of the reactive mission shared with the state party before its publication. And we also like to stress that it should be done in a timely manner, as it will ensure and promote accuracy of the report, reflecting the reality on the ground, and give enough time for a state party to comment on the report. The consultation and dialogues will indeed help the state party and the advisory bodies to understand each other so that they can work together to advance conservation and protection of the relevant site. So with that, we would reserve our position to maybe comment on the wording on the 24th September as we plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any more interventions? St. Vincent and Grenadines.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I have listened carefully to the Secretariat and the advisory bodies, and they already said that the dialogue is already established, and we know that there is a dialogue between the state party, the center, the advisory bodies. But as it is presented in paragraph 12.1 and 12.2 by Japan, I feel that this process is very heavy and demands a lot of work from the Secretariat, from the advisory bodies. And as you know, Mr. Chair, time is money. So we have to spend a lot of money on this new process. And I am wondering, and I ask a question to the advisory bodies and to the Secretariat, if this is not a sort of pushing the advisory bodies to change the decision, or we should keep the independence of the advisory bodies. And as Mr. Ottoni, ADG Ottoni said, we have also to look to the credibility and the integrity of the convention. So we do prefer at this stage to not, we do not support this proposal, and especially we don't have the budget requested for this process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mexico.
Gracias, señor presidente. Estamos hablando nuevamente de un diálogo entre los estados parte y los órganos consultivos. Un diálogo que, si recuerdan ustedes, en 2010 marcó una ruptura fuerte durante la sesión del Comité del Patrimonio Mundial en Brasilia, cuando los estados parte tuvieron esta, entre comillas, rebelión contra los órganos consultivos. No debemos olvidar eso, y que a partir de ese momento se ha venido construyendo un diálogo permanente entre los órganos consultivos y los estados parte para poder ir caminando de la mano. Claro que el tema de la solvencia económica es un tema que a todos nos preocupa. Sin embargo, como señaló nuestro distinguido subdirector, el señor Ottoni, no podemos pensar en que los estados parte tendrían, bajo este diálogo, que modificar informes a modo de lo que informen las misiones de evaluación. Lo que nos preocupa a nosotros es la fortaleza de los órganos consultivos ante esta propuesta. El temor permanente de una lista en peligro refleja que no entendemos todavía la ventaja de este instrumento, que ayuda a encauzar y corregir los esfuerzos para la conservación. Eso hizo México años atrás, cuando aceptamos la inscripción de las islas y áreas protegidas del Golfo de California en la lista en peligro. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Greece.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We listened very carefully to the time frame mentioned by the Director General of the World Heritage, by the Director of the World Heritage Center, and we would like to to remind all delegates that in view of next year and hopefully the normalization of the line of works of our committee, we will have the 45th section earlier than this year, in June and July, meaning that the whole procedure will be affected and reports of the advisory bodies and all the monitoring process would have to be completed much earlier than this year. So the time limit is a fact, and we have to work accordingly. And we would also like to thank the Japanese proposal so as to include in the annex, in fact, the views of the advisory bodies and the state party concerned in case of divergence of opinions. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. So I'll pass the floor to the Secretariat to reflect on some of the comments addressed.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Alors, je voudrais bien sûr redire déjà ce que j'ai dit et ce qui répondrait à la question de la distinguée déléguée de Saint-Vincent. C'est vrai que le dialogue demande du temps, demande de la disponibilité et il y a une implication forcément en termes de disponibilité de ressources humaines et du temps. Donc, je l'ai déjà dit, je l'ai rappelé dans ma première intervention et c'est une question que les membres du comité devront prendre en considération. Cela dit, le secrétariat a déjà commencé à faire ce dialogue. Ce que demande, ce qui est marqué dans l'amendement du Japon est que cette question soit poussée un peu plus loin et notamment pour les questions beaucoup plus critiques où la question de l'inscription sur la liste en péril peut par exemple être mise et recommandée. Mais je voulais juste vous dire quelque chose. Vous savez que vous avez défini la date du 1er février pour la soumission de vos rapports sur les états de conservation. Alors, ce que nous avons noté, c'est qu'au 1er février, nous recevons 50% des rapports attendus. Donc, si nous avons tous les rapports au 1er février, c'est-à-dire 100% des rapports, nous pouvons entamer un dialogue encore plus efficace. Mais si nous avons la moitié des rapports, cela devient difficile. Donc, je crois que c'est aussi quelque chose qu'il faut prendre en considération parce que ça réduit nécessairement le temps qui peut être nécessaire pour le dialogue en amont avant la tenue du comité du patrimoine mondial et pour la préparation des rapports des états de conservation et aussi des projets de décision. Merci, Monsieur le Président. Comme vous avez, la question a été posée d'avoir les avis des organisations consultatives. Peut-être que vous voudriez aussi, après l'UICN et l'ICOMOS, donner la parole à l'ICOM. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Director. I would like to see if the advisory bodies has any comment on this. IUCN, you may have the floor.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think most of the comments have been made. Just to reiterate that the principal challenges in implementing what I think we all share in terms of the intent will always be about the timelines that are available for timely delivery of reports, and if there is significant extra work, we know that budgets are constrained. I would like to say that I don't think, although we often have robust exchanges with states parties, that we're always clear that the reports that we're providing are independent reports by the advisory bodies and with the World Heritage Centre, and I think the dialogue process is one which improves both the quality of the work but also the spirit in which the work that we do in this convention is done. So I think we are very comfortable that dialogue and structured dialogue is something that helps all of us and helps IUCN to do its work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. ICOMOS?
Chair, thank you very much. I will make a very short comment, and that's simply that it's always preferable to systematize procedures. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'd like to see if Ikram has anything to do.
Indeed, thank you, Chair. We do want to make a short comment. We don't usually try to intervene on state of conservation, but in this case, obviously, it does involve us because we are involved in some of the reactive monitoring missions and in the drafting of all of the reports. I just want to support what's been said for the large part. Obviously, ICROM is always open to dialogue with the state's parties and in regard to any sites that are in the reactive monitoring process or on the state of conservation process. The two points that I would want to make, and they've been mentioned already, but I want to emphasize them, is it's not a question of desire for dialogue, it's a question of time. And because it is a question of time, I honestly think what we need to do, with all due respect to all committee members here, we're talking in a very general sense at this point in time. What I think we actually need to do is we actually need to sit down very concretely and start working from the moment that you want your report 6 weeks in advance of the committee meeting, and actually sort of figure out, okay, if it's 6 weeks that this has to be issued, how much time before do we need that extra report coming from the state party in case there's a potential danger listing, because they need to know that they have a month to draft that, and then that means that we have to have the dialogue for another month before that. I mean, I think we really need to sit down. I'm a planner by profession. We really need to sit down and we need to figure out what the planning implications of that are, so that we understand, is February 1st still a valid deadline for the SOC reports? Maybe that needs to be moved up in order for us to actually be able to carry this whole process out in a longer fashion. So again, my suggestion at this point in time is to actually sit down and look at what the implications are from a time point of view, from a practical time point of view, and I'm sure that we can try to figure out what the best solutions are, recognizing that there are always also going to be cases that are a little bit outside the norm. My final comment, because we've talked about budget implications, and there are budget implications certainly, but there's also human resource implications, which are also important for this. ICMOS has fantastic experts, but and it's got a huge membership also. But I mean, the people dealing on World Heritage are only a certain number of people. ICROM, has a big network, but we're only a certain number of people, and so we also have to take into account the human resource implications of that, in addition to the budgetary implications of that. But just to close, I really want to emphasize we are absolutely in favor of dialogue. We are absolutely in favor of working with states parties in the best way possible. We just want to be practical going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the wonderful inputs. So I see we don't have any more interventions, and I think we had a good amount of time to discuss this, and we had fruitful St. Vincent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I listened carefully to the advisory bodies, and I would like to support what has been said by Ikram. The process is very heavy, and if we want to adopt it now, I think it is impossible, because we need a calendar and we need to know exactly the financial implications. It is not just a proposal to enhance the dialogue. Of course, we are for the dialogue. All of us, we are for the dialogue. But it should be based on information, very clear information on the financial implication, and for also how we can have human resources. And Ikram said that when we receive the reports in February, how we can establish the dialogue. So please, Mr. Chair, we need maybe the Secretariat could provide to us a sort of calendar of financial implications to take a clear decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. Your inquiries well noted. So, with your permission, I think we had a good amount of time to discuss this matter. Your Excellency of Japan, I hope you were happy with this. And if you allow me to close the debate and resume to open item 7. item 8, sorry. So we were going back and forth with item 7. So now we go back to item 8. So our agenda on item 8 devoted to the nomination processes and to the draft decision 45com.8. I now invite Mr. Alessandro Balsamo, head of the nomination unit of the World Heritage Center, to briefly present document 45com-8. Mr. Balsamo, you may have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Following reflections initiated in 2018, the World Heritage Committee, with its decision 44com-8, decided to establish an open-ended working group of state parties to the Convention in order to broaden the scope of the reflection on sites of memories of recent conflicts. The open-ended working group, chaired by Mrs. Vera Lecueil, Deputy Permanent Delegate of St. Lucia, with Mrs. Ellen Chui, Deputy Permanent Delegate of Kenya, as rapporteur and a member of the Bureau, along with Austria, Japan, and South Africa, met in 9 meetings between November 2021 and June 2022. The group recommended to the committee to lift the moratorium on the evaluation of sites of memory associated with recent conflicts and to process nomination of sites of memory associated with recent conflicts submitted by February 1st, 2022 and considered complete. And the group also recommended definition on the terms of recent conflicts and sites of memory and guiding principles for the preparation of nomination of sites of memory associated with recent conflicts. In addition, the group also recommended the committee to adopt a contestation mechanism for sites of memory included on the tentative list and newly submitted nomination using criterion 6. The committee, at its 18th extraordinary session held in UNESCO in January 2023, adopted the recommendation by the working group and also decided that those state parties which had requested it at the 18th extraordinary session, the examination of the nomination will be included on the agenda of the present session. Part 3 of the document Document 8 deals with 4 nominations that are in the pipeline, but were not evaluated either due to COVID-19 pandemic or security reasons. And the 4 nominations are the Lake Chad Cultural Landscape by Cameroon, Chad, Niger, and Nigeria, submitted in 2020. Mount Kumgyang, Diamond Mountain from the Sea, Democratic People's Republic of Korea, submitted in 2021. Badang Jarang Desert, Towers of Sand and Lakes, China, submitted in 2020, and migratory bird sanctuaries along the coast of Yellow Sea, Bohai Gulf of China, Phase 2, China, submitted in 2022. Whenever possible, the evaluation process for this nomination will be undertaken in accordance with the time frame foreseen in paragraph 168 of the operational guidelines, and their examination will not impinge on the national or overall quota of nomination to be examined. Mr. Chairperson, IUCN would like to complement this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. IUCN, you may have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and with your permission, IUCN's remarks address the section of the Item 8 document headed Reflection on Nominations under Natural Criteria. This element focuses on concern regarding the relatively small number of nominations we see being made under the natural criteria, in spite of the large identified potential of natural heritage sites to fill important gaps on the World Heritage List and to improve the regional balance of the list. There are many potential sites identified in a series of gap studies developed over the decades by IUCN related to both biodiversity and geological diversity. Due to the prevailing lack of funds available, such studies have been carried out based only on voluntary contributions since the 2012-2013 biennium, and they've been done in partnership with a range of states parties and voluntary and philanthropic funding, but with very little investment available for follow-up. It is notable that the potential to support new natural nominations relates to regions that are currently underrepresented on the World Heritage List, and this could also then restore the regional balance on the list. So part of our reflection at the 50th year of the Convention is that there is a need to provide more support to nominations of natural heritage, and we would recommend multi-year action plans for World Heritage in priority regions and with the relevant countries to help globally exceptional natural sites to develop nominations and to build awareness and capacity at all levels. And this is a concrete means for this Convention to do more to support the newly adopted global biodiversity framework, the blueprint for tackling the extinction crisis that is facing us globally. Such regional action plans would take the action needed to invest in underrepresented regions that are most in need of support for natural heritage, to build capacity, but also to ensure that the solutions for nominations are matched to sustainable development needs, and to also help build the regional diversity of the advisory body networks and the specialist networks that support this convention. Mr. Chair, the draft decision includes 2 paragraphs for the consideration of the committee. The first relates to encouraging states parties to make the fullest and effective use of the network of IUCN's regional and global thematic studies when preparing nominations to be submitted. And the second is to call for support towards the World Heritage Centre and the advisory body's work and the work of states parties to implement a series of multi-year regional action plans that could increase the priority that is supporting regions that are underrepresented in natural heritage, and to improve the regional balance of the World Heritage List and fill the important gaps that remain. Mr. Chair, we believe this is a highly important issue and there is a need for action, and we commend this decision to the committee, and we'd also welcome further discussions with interested states parties to carry forward the work proposed. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. So, dear colleagues, I would like to inform you that this item will remain open to take into account the debate and comment or any interventions held under agenda item 8A, 8B, 8C, 8D, and 8E. The draft decision 45-8 will be adopted on the 24th of September once we have completed the examination of item 8A through 8E. So I would like to see if there are any comments or interventions from the committee members on this agenda item. So I see no interventions from the committee members, so that we can proceed to the next item. Dear colleagues, we will now proceed with our agenda item 8A, devoted to the tentative list. The relevant document is 45-8A. This document spans over a 2-year period. I invite Mr. Alessandro Balsamo again to briefly present document 8A. Mr. Balsamo, you may have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. Document 8A presents the tentative list of all state parties submitted in conformity with the operational guidelines as of 15 April 2023. In particular, Annex 1 presents the overall situation relative to tentative list. Annex 2 of document 8A presents all the new tentative list or addition to existing tentative list which have been submitted by state parties since the last session of the World Heritage Committee. And Annex 3 presents a list of all sites on the tentative list received from state parties in alphabetical and regional order. As of 15 April 2023, of the 194 state parties which had ratified the convention at that date, because Tuvalu ratified only on 18 May 2023, 186 had submitted tentative list in accordance with the requirements specified in the operational guidelines, and 8 state parties have no sites on the tentative list. All the nominations submitted for examination in 2023 are indeed included on the tentative list of state parties concerned. Since the preparation of document 8A for the extended 44th session of the committee in 2021, up until 15 April last, 41 state parties have submitted new tentative lists or modified their existing list. And the number of properties added to the tentative list is 105. And currently, in total, we have 1,768 sites on the tentative list. Draft decision has been included on page 2 of both the English and French version of this document. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. I'd like to see if any comments or interventions from the committee members. Sultan Oman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I have only one question regarding the tentative list. For how long can we hold a tentative list of a country if they are not updating it? This is my question. Is it for how many years? 5, 10, 15? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll pass the floor to the Secretariat to answer this question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, and thank you for this question, which is very important. Actually, there is no deadline. A tentative list can last forever. However, the operational guidelines indicate that state parties are encouraged to update their tentative list at least every 10 years.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other comments? Oman?
Thank you for the answer, but don't you think this is because I can see the list is becoming too long? Don't you think we should have a regulation for this at least 10 or 20 years instead giving it open and the list going on? Because sometimes it's creating confusion. This is my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you again for this question. Of course, I mean, this is totally in the end of the committee because it's a sovereign right of each state parties to include new sites on the tentative list as it is for now and to remove it as well. The only automatic let's say, action that we can note on tentative list is that whenever a site is included and the related site is inscribed on the World Heritage List, that entry is removed. Otherwise, we rely on the changes that are proposed by the state parties. But if the committee should, let's say, think and consider that there should be like a deadline of 10 years, of 15 years, this is up to you to decide.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alessandro. So I would like to pass the floor to the Director.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Juste pour rajouter ce que mon collègue du secrétariat vient de vous dire. Nous vous encourageons à l'harmonisation de vos listes indicatives. Je pense que toutes les études qui ont été réalisées par les organisations consultatives et par le secrétariat, mais aussi sur la base des discussions que vous avez eues par le passé pour améliorer la représentativité de la liste du patrimoine mondial, pour améliorer vos propres choix sur les propositions de dossiers de nomination que vous soumettez. Le travail en amont sur cette liste indicative est important pour que la bonne sélection des sites soit ici importante. Et là, effectivement, l'ambassadeur d'Oman a tout à fait raison de souligner cette question. C'est pourquoi nous organisons des activités de formation à l'échelle nationale avec vous, puisque beaucoup de pays reçoivent des assistances internationales financières pour ce faire, mais aussi nous encourageons à l'organisation des activités régionales d'harmonisation entre les différentes régions des listes indicatives. Et c'est ce travail qui peut aussi amener à l'amélioration et de la représentativité de vos sites sur la liste indicative. Et c'est un travail qui est surtout à encourager et à faire pour les régions qui sont les moins représentées aujourd'hui sur la liste du patrimoine mondial, bien sûr, avec votre soutien et votre appui. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. Director. Mali, you have the floor.
Monsieur le Président, l'établissement des listes indicatives du patrimoine mondial, leur révision et mise à jour dans l'approche participative avec l'implication de tous les acteurs constituent des étapes décisives pour l'inscription des biens culturels sur la liste du patrimoine mondial, comme cela est consigné dans le guide pour l'élaboration et la révision des listes indicatives du patrimoine mondial. Cependant, le constat est que bon nombre de biens inscrits sur la liste indicative prennent assez de temps avant de basculer dans la liste du patrimoine mondial. Cela est dû surtout au fait que les ressources humaines et financières sont insuffisantes pour préparer, dans les meilleurs délais, les dossiers de proposition d'inscription sur la liste du patrimoine mondial. Aussi sollicitons-nous auprès du Centre du patrimoine mondial et des organisations consultatives l'obtention du renforcement de leur appui à l'endroit des pays qui en ont réellement besoin, afin de faciliter le passage des biens de la liste indicative à la liste du patrimoine mondial. Merci.
Thank you very much. دولة قطر.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. شكرا سيد الرئيس. لقد أثار سعادة سفير سلطنة عمان مسألة في الأهمية، وهي مبدأ الإعلام عن تراكم المواقع المسجلة في القائمة التمهيدية للتسجيل. ونتشارك مع هذه المسألة بأن قد يكون هناك آلية لتحسين العمل والإجراءات لتجنب تراكم هذه القائمة من ناحية، ومن ناحية أخرى لتواجد الشفافية ورفع الوعي الدول المعنية في ذلك. فلذلك لماذا، وهذا السؤال وجه إلى السكرتارية، في حال أن يكون هناك إجراء للتجديد كل 10 سنوات يتم إجراء تجديد أو إعلام الدولة الطرف بأن قد تمت 10 سنوات على مرور وجود هذا الممتلك على قائمة التراث التمهيدي، وبالتالي يتم التشاور مع الدولة العضو لكيفية إدارة هذا الملف، أو هل هناك رغبة للاستمرار، هل هناك إشكالية. فترك الموضوع طبعا مفتوح بهذه الطريقة أعتقد سوف يعقد من عمل السكرتارية واللجان الاستشارية كذلك، وهذا ما أود أن أشرحه. شكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you very much. So I'll pass the floor to the Director of the World Heritage Center to reflect on the last intervention.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. C'est vraiment pour remercier Monsieur l'ambassadeur du Qatar pour son intervention. Tout à l'heure, mon collègue, dans sa présentation, a bien souligné que les listes indicatives sont vraiment sous votre responsabilité. Mais tout soutien à l'harmonisation et à au renforcement du travail autour de ces listes-là, à la gestion des sites qui sont sur les listes indicatives et au renforcement des capacités des experts est bien sûr bienvenu. Et je remercie vraiment le monsieur l'ambassadeur du Qatar d'avoir relevé ce point-là. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. India?
Thank you, Chair, for giving India the floor. We also believe that putting up a property on the tentative list is an important step by a state party to include the sites with a view to put it up for the World Heritage nomination on the World Heritage list in future. It's in a kind of a wish list of any state party. But what it does is that it allows a state party to review its national or regional sites that have a potential outstanding universal value. It also gives a state party an opportunity to actually work on improving the state of conservation and other critical managemental issues that may crop up before the sites are put on danger. So it's in a way, it's a good exercise. However, Mr. Chair, that we have 1,768 properties on the tentative list from 186 states parties, which means still 9 states parties haven't had a single site on the tentative list, and that's a cause of concern which the World Heritage Committee, the Center, the advisory bodies should collectively look at. And this is, we believe, is where the gaps begin. Because, or gaps or imbalance, because, herein also lies the issue of the capacity building, whether we are looking at engagement with the local communities, the local government bodies, the experts from that state party or from that region. This is where the matter is of grave concern, and I think that is what the committee should actually look at. But before ending, I just wanted to ask a question to the Secretariat, that in case of the tentative list, like we understand that for the World Heritage properties, like you have a mechanism of a third-party information that the Secretariat receives and it passes on to the concerned state party. In case of a tentative list, do we also have a similar mechanism? That is, I wanted a clarification. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'll pass the floor to the Secretariat to respond to this matter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. Actually, there is no exactly a procedure that is foreseen in terms of tentative list for third-party information. However, we estimate that as soon as a site is included in the tentative list, indeed this becomes under the realm of what is the protection of the World Heritage Convention. Therefore, if we have information about any project impinging on that site, we may write to the concerned state parties to verify that information. And Mr. Chairperson, if you allow me, I wanted to also add one thing on the question also posed by Qatar, because it's really important to underline, and it's an important question, what do we do also in terms of the work that we do with tentative lists, the Secretariat and the advisory bodies. And it's indeed absolutely important, because the tentative lists are really the roots of what happens after in the process, and so we are really attentive to this process. And you may have noticed also the publishing of the guidance on developing and revising World Heritage tentative list, which is the expression of this attempt to work with the state parties to have also more harmonized tentative list, like the director was mentioning. The harmonization is extremely important to then have also good results in terms of nomination later on in the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any more comments or intervention on this item? So since there is no more interventions, I therefore invite you to proceed with the adoption of the draft decision 45Com 8A. But before doing so, I would like to ask the rapporteur if she has received any amendment on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have received no amendment on the draft decision 45.com/8A. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments on this regard? I see none, and I therefore declare draft decision 45.8A adopted. So we have a request from the State Party of Palestine. You may have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. شكرا سيدي الرئيس. كما يبدو أننا في القاعة كبيرة ولم ترانا السكرتارية. My intervention is related to the general item 7 and 8. I tried to take the floor after the general debate, after the committee members, but maybe I was not visible. In any case, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. So, as I mentioned, my intervention is relating to these two items, and allow me to revert again to the credibility and to the imbalance on the World Heritage List. Not only the World Heritage List, the regular one, but also the World Heritage List in danger. And in this regard, I would like to give you very quickly some statistics. 43% of the sites on the World Heritage List are inscribed by 7% of state parties. And 20% of sites on the World Heritage List, are inscribed by 68% by state parties. You see the disparity. And now, for the World Heritage List in danger, 41% of the sites on this list are located in the Arab region, and 25% in the African regions, which means in our region 66% of the sites in danger are located in our regions. So my request in this regard to the Secretariat and the advisory body is to give more attention and means, including capacity buildings, to help in the implementation of the corrective measures in order to reach the desired state of conservation and the removal of these sites from the list in danger. As for the regular list, we need to have a deep and thorough reflection, and maybe we can consider giving possibility for some member states to submit 2 files per year, and others 1 file per year, and others even less than 1 file per year. And I think that the committee may consider, if they consider it appropriate, the creation of an open-ended working group to reflect on this matter. And I'm confident they will take the right decision. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Your Excellency. So I'll pass the floor to Armenia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to speak before, but I will go on now. The Armenian delegation would like to draw attention of the distinguished audience that Azerbaijan has time and again opted to politicize and misuse this cultural platform by leveling unfounded and inaccurate accusations against Armenia in all of its submissions, both for the tentative list and the World Heritage List. Such behavior is contrary to the values and principles of our organization. Furthermore, one of the sites is located near the city of Hadrut in Nagorno-Karabakh, which fell under the control of Azerbaijan in the aftermath of its large-scale aggression unleashed amidst the global pandemic in the fall of 2020. Since then, Azerbaijan has embarked on state-sponsored cultural genocide of the millennia-old Armenian cultural heritage in Nagorno-Karabakh, with numerous documented instances of destruction, desecration and appropriation of cultural sites. The satellite imagery of the recent destruction of the Church of St. Sarkis in Mohrenes village of the Hadrut region, among others, serve as a striking example of Azerbaijan's disregard not only for the Armenian cultural heritage, but also for the decision of the International Court of Justice of 7 December 2021, which compels that Azerbaijan take all necessary measures to prevent and punish acts of vandalism and desecration affecting Armenian cultural heritage, including but not limited to churches and other places of worship, monuments, landmarks, cemeteries, and artifacts. On 10 March 2022, the European Parliament passed a resolution condemning Azerbaijan for the destruction of cultural heritage in Nagorno-Karabakh, denouncing Armenophobia in Azerbaijan and advocating for access to international organizations, including UNESCO, to safeguard heritage. However, up until now, Azerbaijan refuses to provide access to the fact-finding mission of UNESCO to Nagorno-Karabakh to draw up an inventory of the most significant cultural assets proposed by the Director General in November 2020 as a prerequisite for effective protection of the region's heritage. Coupled with the inhuman blockade of Nagorno-Karabakh.
I'd like to ask you to conclude, please.
Therefore, Armenia emphasizes the urgent need for the swift deployment of the UNESCO mission to impartially assess the situation on the ground. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Lebanon.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. En fait, mon intervention, après avoir écouté les discussions d'aujourd'hui et l'explication concernant les listes indicatives, concerne ces ateliers que l'UNESCO est en train de prévoir et d'organiser. Et ce que je voudrais dire, c'est que nous avons grandement besoin de ce genre d'ateliers parce que nous avons besoin de renouveler nos ressources humaines, sans même parler des ressources financières. Et nous serions très heureux si ces ateliers pouvaient avoir lieu au Liban pour toucher le plus grand nombre de personnes, au lieu que ce soit une personne qui soit envoyée autre part, mais que les ateliers de formation à tous les niveaux d'ailleurs, liste indicative, liste en danger, etc., qui soient organisés au Liban pour toucher le plus grand nombre de ressources humaines au Liban et dans la région arabe, évidemment. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for giving us floor. We, unfortunately, sorry for taking the floor and to waste the precious time of the committee, but we are obliged to make this statement to respond to the Armenian side. Mr. Chair, the hypocritic nature of the statement of Armenian side has no limit. Unfortunately, from the last two statements of the Armenian delegations, we see that the reason why they are participating in this committee session is only Azerbaijan, and this is very shame for this country as they have nothing to offer to the international community. This statement, Mr. Chair, is another blatant manifestation of the continuation of the territorial claims of Armenia against Azerbaijan. During the 30 years of military aggression and occupation of internationally recognized territories of Azerbaijan, Armenia subjected Azerbaijani cultural heritage to large-scale destruction, plunder, and vandalism. Thousands of cultural objects, including monuments of world and national importance, mosques, temples, exhibits, museums, archaeological sites, and libraries were looted and destroyed. 65 out of 67 mosques, Excellencies, were totally destroyed, and 2 remaining were heavily damaged, vandalized, and were used as pigsties in total disrespect to the Muslim world. This is what this country is doing. This act of vandalism, Excellencies, not only took place in the liberated Karabakh region of Azerbaijan, but also in the Armenia itself, in historical Azerbaijani territories of Western Zangezur, Kafan, Iravan, Gökçe, Nuvadi, and Vedi. Armenian government destroyed all the cultural heritage in these territories with the one clear aim to wipe out traces of Azerbaijani people living in these territories for centuries. And as we speak now, the historically Azerbaijani Tepebashi quarter in Iravan, the only area of the historical old town that has survived to this day, is at risk of the same fate. And at the end, Mr. Chair, I would like to urge Armenia that compliance with international law and good neighborly relations, in particular respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity of member states, are the main objectives to which Armenia should finally begin aspiring. I thank you.
Thank you. I would like to ask all state parties to maintain a constructive discussion during this session. So now we shall now move to our agenda item 8D, devoted to the issues of the clarifications of property boundaries and areas of state parties. Please refer to the document 45.com-8D. This report is also spanned over a 2-year period, and as you will remember, in line with the decision 18EXT.com3 and Annex 3 of the related document, this agenda item will be adopted without debate. I invite Mr. Bassamo again to briefly present document 8D. You may have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Document 8D presents cartographic and geographic information provided by state parties on boundary clarification of World Heritage properties. This document presents information related to maps and geographic information of properties reviewed and accepted through the retrospective inventory project since the last committee session. And as you know, the retrospective inventory was initiated back in 2004 with the purpose of identification and collection of data, such as information of boundaries on serial component parts and areas of World Heritage properties where the required information is missing or not adequate. It involves an in-depth examination of the nomination dossier available at the World Heritage Center, ICOMOS, and IUCN. And satisfactory boundary clarifications have been submitted for 34 World Heritage properties, all of which are included in this document. To be considered adequate, boundary clarifications must be consistent with the decision of the World Heritage Committee at the time of inscription, and maps also must meet the current technical requirements. Out of the 1,157 properties analyzed, 557 were determined to be subject of clarification. 52% of the properties inscribed have adequate maps with clearly defined boundaries, and the remaining 48% of properties are in need of a clarification, and out of this, 5% do not have cartographic information from the time of their inscription. As you can see, great progress continues to be made in clarifying the boundaries of the World Heritage properties, but many remain imprecise or unclear. The World Heritage Center provides its continuous support to all state parties in the preparation of boundary clarification. Draft decision has been included on page 2 of the English and French version of the document. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. I therefore invite you, dear colleagues, to proceed with the adoption of the draft decision 45.8D. But before doing so, I would like to ask the rapporteur if she has received any amendment on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have received no amendments for the draft decision 45.com/8D. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments on this? So I see none, and I therefore declare draft decision 45.8D adopted. We shall now move to our agenda item 8E, adoption of respective statement of outstanding universal value. Please refer to the document 45.com-8E. This report also spans over a 2-year period. As you will remember, in line with the decision 18EXT.com3 and Annex 2 of the related document, this agenda item will be adopted without debate. I invite Mr. Balsamo again to briefly present document 8E. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Document 8E concerns the adoption of 18 retrospective statements of OUV, for which the review process has been finalized since the last session of the committee. Out of 18 retrospective statements of outstanding universal value, 7 are from the Arab States region, 2 from the Asia and Pacific region, and 9 from the Europe or North America. In 2007, the World Heritage Committee requested that statements of outstanding universal value be drafted and adopted retrospectively for all World Heritage properties inscribed between 1978 and 2006. And since 2009, the World Heritage Committee adopted 753 retrospective statements. 38 statements are still to be finalized and presented to the committee. 2 in Africa, 5 in Arab states, 9 in Asia Pacific, 20 in Europe and North America, and 2 in Latin America and Caribbean. A list of properties for which the draft retrospective statements of outstanding universal value are proposed for adoption is included in the draft decision, and the text of each statement in the language in which it has been submitted by the state party can be found in the annex to the document. Once adopted, the retrospective statement of outstanding universal value will be translated by the World Heritage Center and made available on its website. You will find the draft decision on page 1 and both in English and French copies of the document. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much. And I therefore now invite you, dear colleagues, to proceed with the adoption of the draft decision 45-8E. But before doing so, I would like to ask the rapporteur if she has received any amendment on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No amendments are received for the draft decision 45.com/80. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to see if we have any comment on this. So I see none, and I therefore declare draft decision 45-8E adopted. I would like to ask the Director of the World Heritage Center for some feedback and reflection on the item just adopted.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. No, my intervention here is to really thank all the state parties that have submitted their retrospective statement of OUV. This is a very important step because it will allow both the committee member, the secretariat, and the advisory bodies to monitor in a proper way the state of conservation of your properties. I think it's in line with the discussion that we have had under item 7 also. So I would really encourage the other state parties who are still in the process of finalizing their state of conservation, their statement of OUV, retrospective statement of OUV, to really finalize this work, because it will ease the way we appreciate and the attributes of your properties, I mean, that justify the statement of outstanding universal values when we are preparing our report, conducting our missions, and having dialogues with you on some of the issues and that your properties are facing on a daily basis. So I will really want to encourage you to pay attention to our request to finalize your retrospective statement of OUV. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, dear Director. So, dear committee members, the next item of our agenda concerns the upstream process. Please refer to document 45.com-9A. This document spans over a period of 2 years. As you will also remember, in line with the decision 18EXT.com-3 and the Annex 2 of the related document, this agenda item will be adopted without discussion. I invite Mr. Bassamo, Head of the Nomination Unit of the World Heritage Center, to briefly present document 9A. Mr. Bassamo, you may have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. Document 9A presents the progress report of the upstream process and the new upstream process request received. The committee launched in 2011 an initiative called Upstream Process, which aimed to explore options for improving and strengthening the nomination process. And the upstream process has been incorporated in the operational guidelines in 2015. Its implementation over the first years highlighted a number of challenges in terms of human and financial resources, but also the need for conceptual clarification of its scope. In 2018, the committee approved a revised definition on the upstream process proposed by the ad hoc working group that met in 2018. and requested the Secretariat to integrate it in the operational guidelines in the framework of the revision of the 43rd session in 2019. It is important to emphasize that the application of the upstream process approach does not imply that a site will ultimately be inscribed on the World Heritage List. The main aim of the upstream process is to indeed reduce the number of sites that experience significant problems during the nomination process, and to avoid the significant investment in financial and human resources where the proposed sites do not demonstrate potential for justifying outstanding universal value. Following the publication of the guidance on developing a revising World Heritage tentative list as a first step to address upstream process requests regarding the creation or revision of tentative list, the World Heritage Center and the advisory bodies are working on the operationalization of this guidance. And for this purpose, a toolkit for state parties and resource persons was developed. This toolkit will be used in the organization of workshops conducted by the World Heritage Center, ICOMOS and IUCN about the development and revision of tentative list, contributing to a streamlined and consistent implementation of all upstream process requests concerning tentative list. Concerning the new requests received by the 31 March 2022 deadline, the World Heritage Center received 7 upstream process requests. Annex 1 of document 9A shows this request in order of priority. And by the 31st of March 2023 deadline, the World Heritage Center received 1 request. As only 1 request was received, no list in order of priority of requests was needed for the 2023. Annex 2 of the document presents the list of pending upstream process requests received from 2018 to 2023, and they are divided by year of submission as object of the advice requested. Tentative list or nominations are presented in English alphabetical order by state party. Finally, we would like to thank the state parties of Slovenia, Switzerland, and United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland for their financial support to the overall coordination of the upstream process. The draft decision of this item is on page 3 of the English version and on page 4 of the French version of document 9A. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much. St. Vincent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. St. Vincent and the Grenadines thanks the Secretariat for the report and for all its efforts to make the upstream process efficient. St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Grenada were among the states parties that had jointly undertaken on an experimental basis in 2011 an upstream pilot project to prepare a nomination file, a common nomination file, the Grenadines Islands, in close cooperation with the World Heritage Center and thanks to the funds in trust of the Netherlands and UNESCO's participation program. After almost 10 years that included 2 phases, we are now entering the formal upstream process. We hope not to wait another 10 years to finalize the nomination file, especially since the 2 states parties have no site inscribed on the list. The upstream depends on the availability of the resources and the expertise, and we thank Slovenia, Switzerland, and United Kingdom for their contributions to the process. We call on the working group on the budget, which will start its work on 18th, to look in depth on the budget allocated to this end. Of the 38 requests from 2018 to 2023, some are finalized or in progress. Others have not yet started. However, we consider that the period of 18 months is too long to receive the outcomes of the upstream request after the deadline of which it is submitted. We need from the Secretariat a clarification from the Center, of course, and maybe advisory bodies about the order of priority for processing requests. Is this linked to the date of submission of the request or applicable according to the guidelines of the upstream process and the reference made to paragraph 61C of the guidelines, which stipulates inter alia that priority is given to states parties with no sites inscribed on the list. And we would also like to listen to the advisory bodies to know the challenges in the process which need to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. India?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. India would endorse the remarks made by the distinguished delegate of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. India would also like to thank the World Heritage Center for presenting the report on the implementation of this upstream process and requests that including the remaining pilot projects and the requests including the main pilot projects since the extended 44th session of the World Heritage Committee. We note with satisfaction the overall progress related to this upstream process, an effort that has been continuing since 2008. India welcomes and supports the initiative for states parties being given an opportunity to submit these requests for upstream advice in case these are needed. This allows for an interaction between a state party and the advisory bodies and help a state party seeking assistance to work on their tentative list augmentation and to seek advice regarding the potential outstanding universal value of a property. This process, as we have noted, has been mainstreamed since 2015 as well. India has also noted the selected pilot projects and various requests received in this regard. The Annexure 1 and 2 of the report indicate nearly 40 proposals are still pending. Clearly, it is obligatory on the part of the World Heritage Committee to help the least developed countries, the low-income and low-middle-income countries, and the small island development states, following the mechanisms of the paragraph 61.c of the operational guidelines, since their share of the World Heritage properties is quite low. We complement the efforts being made towards assisting such states parties to augment their tentative list and work on their nomination proposals. This is still a work in progress, which aims to reduce the gap between the states parties in terms of number of properties on the World Heritage List. India requests the World Heritage Center and advisory bodies to keep continuing these efforts. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Sultanate Oman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is, after thanking the Secretariat for this report, I have a simple question only regarding number 4 in the draft resolution there. What is the relation between number 4, item 4 here and this draft resolution and the discussion that we had about limiting the years of the tentative list? Thank you.
Shukran jazilan. Japan.
Thank you very much, Chair. I would like just checking, the debate is open now? Or without debate? If so, I would like to one question.
So we'd like to inform you that I propose this to be adopted without debate, but the committee members requested the floor. So if you have any intervention, you may.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I would like to express my appreciation for the organization of upstream process for World Culture Center, Heritage Center, and ICOMOS. I have one question. So we understood that primary assessment will start from this year. So between the relation upstream process and primary assessment, what is what is the relationship between those systems? Well, that's my question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So I would like to pass the floor to the Secretariat and advisory bodies to respond to the comments addressed by India, Oman, and Japan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. I will provide the first answer, then I think that my colleagues from the advisory bodies will also like to speak. To address also, first of all, St. Vincent and Grenadines, of course, we are doing our best on a daily basis, to work on upstream process request. And as I was saying, actually, at the beginning of my presentation, indeed, unfortunately, the implementation of this process highlighted some human and financial constraints, and these are challenges that we try to overcome each day, but you can really count on us for doing our best, and we know that this project from Samedi and Grenadines is pending since some years, even if a new version has been put forward now, and we are actually working on that. In terms of India also was, I think, speaking about the order of priority, which and also the way we treat this request, and just to recall that the order of priority for the upstream process has been decided by the committee at its 41st session. And it's quite simple, because the first priority is to give to the revision of tentative list, and then we go with the same priority system which is presented in paragraph 61 of the operational guidelines, point C, where, for instance, the state parties with no properties inscribed on their list are first in the priority system, then those with 3 properties inscribed, and then we go on with that priority system. Now, the question of Oman, I think, sorry if I repeat it, but how point 4 of the decision is linked to the duration of tentative list, if that's the question? Yes. So in point 4 of the decision, we actually talk about the guidance that has been published on the developing and revising tentative list, and this guidance is this tool that is supposed really to help state parties in revising their tentative list. And indeed, as I was mentioning, actually, with your question before under the tentative list item, it could be a tool, and it should be the tool that is used by state party to refresh their tentative list, because this could also be done in conjunction with the advisory bodies and the center, and it will be extremely important. But again, the only point that we need to take in mind are the challenges in terms of human and financial resources, which, as it has been already underlined, are not really endless for this process. And the last question was by Japan about the relationship actually between the preliminary assessment and the upstream process. Now, of course, these are 2 mechanisms that are being considered by the committee over the years, and actually the preliminary assessment, it has been a bit the result of the success of the upstream process. Maybe with the passing of the years, the upstream process will just deal only with the tentative list revision, because with actually, indeed, the preliminary assessment is dealing in a systematic way with single sites. Therefore, there will be no need anymore of request for upstream process for single sites, and we noticed already this trend in the new submission that we received. But of course, what we can say is that both these mechanisms imply guidance at an early stage, but there are different mechanisms, because again, just not talking about the difference that the fact that preliminary assessment is dealing just with single sites, and the upstream process is also dealing with a revision of tentative list, but with the upstream process you may have a visit to the site, which is not foreseen actually with the preliminary assessment, and and there are actually other differences, but the most important, I think, is also in terms of calendar, because with the systematization of the preliminary assessment, we have a clear calendar of all the process, and when the actions are needed, and the submission and deadlines for also receiving the response and the outcome of the preliminary assessment review, while for the upstream process this is not the case. So I think these are the main difference between the two processes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see no more comments. St. Vincent?
Mr. Chair, I ask a question about the order of priorities when we submit a request. What is the priority in the discussion or in the evaluation of the upstream? Is it related to the date of submission, or it is related to paragraph 61C of the guidelines? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Alessandro?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. Yes, indeed, the order of priorities: first, those requests that are put forward for a tentative list, then the priority system that is foreseen in paragraph 61.c of the operational guidelines. Along with that, we also have to put together, of course, the date of submission, because if we have an outstanding request from 2018 with the same level of priority, it will be prioritized to one that is received 1 year later.
Thank you very much. I hope that answers your request. Is it clear now, St. Vincent? I see no more comments. So, dear colleagues, I therefore invite you to proceed with the adoption of the draft decision 45COM 9A, but before doing so, I would like to ask the rapporteur if she has received any amendment on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have received no amendment for the draft decision 45COM 9A. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I see no comments, and I therefore declare the draft decision 45COM 9A adopted. So I see also that we have some requests from NGOs to take the floor, but I would like to let them know that they will be given the floor after the adoption of the draft decision on the 24th. Also, I'd like to pass the floor to the Director of World Heritage Center for some general announcements.
No, we are just asking the chairperson to clarify this message to the NGOs that he was referring to item 8, which is still open and will be adopted on the 24th. So just to say that now we'll have 2 side events for your information. The first one would be at the Ad Turaif district room, and it will be on the 10th anniversary of Al Zubarah historical site, and this is organized by Qatar. And the second one, the second side event will, and this side event will start at 1:30, of course. And the second side event will take place in Rokat room. It is organized by South Africa, and is on enhancing collaboration for sustainable management of World Heritage properties, a case study for Lake St. Lucia Estuary, Isimangaliso Wetland Park, World Heritage Site. So thank you, Mr. Chairperson. And then there are still 2 others, sorry. My apologies, because there were 4, not 2. The third one is on, which it's on Al-Assa Oasis. It will start at 1:30, and it's organized by WIPIC, and is on the pathway to advancing interpretation and presentation within the World Heritage system. And then the fourth one will take place in Agro Room. This is the advisory body space. It is organized by the advisory bodies. It will start at 1:30, and it's on everything you wanted to know about World Heritage capacity building. So thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much, dear Director. So we will resume at 3 p.m. with item 8B on nominations.